Hi, this is the fellow passenger, and before I say anything else, a big thank you to Henry Friggin for supporting me at my mid-tier on my Patreon. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Now let's get into this video. This video is about abstract melodies in IDM. And what do I mean by that? We're just going to listen to some example of the type of stuff that I will be making in this video. So something like this. Or this. Or that, and a few examples to follow. The type of melodies that they have a pitch, they are tonal in some way, but they are abstract enough that I don't see that you could easily sit down with a guitar or a piano and replicate the melody and it would be recognizable. This is something that I have been looking for during my journey on music making, and it was always quite difficult to search for because I'm not quite sure what it's called. I'm just going to call it abstract melodies now. I hope that's okay. And that actually chimes in with another one of my Patreons who recently asked me, can you show how to make more abstract IDM melodies, i.e. not the Boards of Canada style melodies, which are melodic, I suppose. He was after something a bit more abstract. And as it happens, I have been exploring a particular way on how to do this quite recently. So I thought I will share that with you. And how does this method work? I call it Garble loops. That is not a term that is established. It's just what I call them. And what is a garble loop? I'm just going to show you some garble loops that I've made. You get the idea. We are going to look at how you can make your own ones to create your own unique work. You can also get all these loops and also this project file that you see in front of you right now if you sign up to my Patreon. I'm not going to talk more about that now. I'll talk about that later. But if you follow along in the video, you should also be able to start making your own garble loops, if we call them that. So what do I do with these loops? These examples that I was playing earlier are all using them in one way or another. So this example, for example, I'm using a simpler and I'm jumping through different parts of the garble loop to create different, where it's picked up where the transients are, so you get almost like the individual sounds. You can obviously drop them in as a where do we have one where it's just used as a sample? Not that one. Well, you can basically use it on an audio track. I thought I'd done that somewhere. Anyway, yeah, here we are. On an audio track, and you can do interesting things with that and pitching and stuff. We're going to do all that. But the most important thing is that we need to have some of these loops. I wonder, maybe I should just demo using the loops first. I will try to put links in the description if you want to jump to different parts. See if you don't want to see how I'm using these first, then you can just skip ahead on how you're making your own Garble loops quite quickly. So I'm just going to chuck these out for now, those examples. I'm going to mute that channel because we're going to look at that in a moment. Let's just make a MIDI track, and we take, this is just one example, we're going to look at more later. So you take a simpler, for example, here, and you take the, let's take a Garble loop here. You set it to slice, and then we need to go down a few octaves on my keyboard because otherwise it needs to be from C1. Here, let's see. And then we can just draw a rhythmical pattern. And then we can maybe use a random to introduce some new occasional picking other samples. And as you hear now, like everything, these are recorded in the note of C, so all of them, it's going to be very C-like. I don't know. But you can obviously, keeping that in mind, you can use automation if you want to pick a, let me see, not random, we want the Garble machine, that one, and then we want to set it to transpose. And let's unlink that so this automation lane is twice as long as, can I make that longer? Yes. We don't have to make it twice as long, we can make it 1.5 times as long, because then they're going to loop out of sync. That was just a quick little demo. We're going to look at more ways after we have made our own Garble loops. I have also made a Garble loop maker which sounds like this. It's basically just generating an enormous amount of variety for every MIDI note it receives. Let's chuck out that MIDI track that we just did. There's loads of stuff going on here. I spent quite a long time putting these together, but we are going to do a little bit of a quick one just so you get the idea. I'm just going to open a fresh project. It makes it a bit easier. So the idea is that you want a quick way of generating loads of samples with quite a lot of variety in them. One thing is the audio itself, so you're going to need some form of instrument to generate the audio. So I'm going to divide the Garble technique into 3 areas. One being the instrument, which you need to randomize. Effects is a really powerful tool to create variety, so I see that as a separate section. And then you also got MIDI and the MIDI effects to go with it to add more variety to your loops. We're also going to talk about different ways you can do this in terms of making something that's going to be very reusable, and you will need to strike the balance right there, and we're going to talk that through. But let's just start with operator is a good starting point. I'm not going to talk about exactly how the operator works, but it's the built-in FM frequency modulator synthesizer in Ableton. It's just very quick at making a huge variety of sounds. And we're going to do lots of automation. I'm going to put this operator in a group. So I just hit selected that and Command G. I suppose it's Control G on a PC to put that in a group. And now we are going to modulate this. You've probably seen similar videos where I've created a lot of percussion like this before. I think an interesting modulation tool is the Shaper MIDI, which is this envelope type thing that you can play around with. We're going to map that to the second operator here, operator B. We're going to turn off the velocity. And we are going to need, you can obviously, like, there's a million techniques. Basically, in short, what you want to do, you want to modulate as many things here as possible. And the things that you want to keep in mind are, how daring do you want to be for this to get out of control? So for example, if you start modulating the tuning, you are going to get loads of atonal stuff, and it's going to be very difficult if you're making a track that you want to be in a particular key. But it's just something to be aware of rather than you shouldn't be doing it. It's just something to be aware of, because if you want to go down a much more chaotic route, go for it. Just modulate the hell out of all the parameters, including the tuning. So you want lots of tonal variety here. We want to be able to update this shape easily. Well, I'm just going to show you a little quick way of how I am doing it. I am using some of my own Max for Live devices here. They are very simple, but they're also quite effective. So this one is just turning a MIDI note into a trigger, and you can set the likelihood so when it receives a MIDI note, how likely it is to turn it into a trigger. It's set to 100% by default. So we are going to set that to change the shape randomly. Also maybe going to change that. Let's add an expression control. I've made a special default one here where all of them are set to random by default. I've just saved it as a preset because that will allow us, for example, we can change the length of this, how long it's going to take, but we probably never want it to take a whole bar for it to play. And then we want to maybe change the operator B's waveform at random. By the way, you don't have to use this trigger thing. You will get it if you sign up to my Patreon, you will get it, but you can use other things here like expression control. You can use the MIDI shaper. There you can use LFOs. There's lots of other ways you can achieve randomness. This is just a tool that I like to use. So just see this. You don't have to follow this to the T. You do your own thing, but just want to create a variety of sounds. Maybe. And maybe we can have a bit of random on off. It's another MIDI device that I have, which when it receives a MIDI note, it will roll the dice and decide whether whatever you map this to, you can map multiple, same with this one. whether it will be on or off. It's set to 50% chance, so we can do that. We can maybe turn the LFO on and off. I'm going to keep this quite simple. There's obviously loads of things that you can modulate. I'm just going to make a few here. Maybe the envelope for the second one. We can do the attack is quite interesting. Oh, we did the envelope for the D, but we want it for B, the second one. So we're already getting a variety of sounds out of this. Let's do a little bit more before we move on. This is obviously a technique you can do with any soft synth VST. You can use it with hardware to get some really interesting results. The other thing we might want to do is the algorithm that sets the relation between these different operators. Let's set the filter to the, what's it called? The variable thing. The filter which can morph. And how do we morph? How do we morph? Oh, here. There is where the morph is. So we set this to morph to different types of filtering. And we should also set the filter frequency. We never want the filter frequency to be completely open, but also not completely closed. Okay, let's say that we are happy quite happy with these now. We probably want to have some sort of limiter or something on there just to make sure that we get slightly consistent volume. So we turn the gain up until we get to a... Do you know what? I'm going to put a limiter on the master as well, and I'm just going to make sure that, because there is a big risk when you start automating stuff like this that all of a sudden you will get something screaming really loud. Set that to -6. Okay, we're getting a whole bunch of sounds out of this now. To create a little bit more, we can also use... No, you can actually take and save this. So you can save this in your user library. You just drag it in there. So if you've created your super variable machine, and now to create even more variety, we are going to use effects. And what do we want to use? We probably want to use a delay. Let's set that to jump so you don't get that strange. You don't get that repitch if you have jump. Cool. Then we want to use our... Actually, we can chuck this in. We just make this into a one-stop shop machine with effects and instrument blended in. So we can use our random on off. So we said there's a 50% chance that the so sometimes we get a delay and sometimes we don't. Then we automate the delay time, but we never want the delay time to be particularly long. But maybe not 0 either. So let's do some more stuff. We probably want to have maybe some bit crushing we can have in there. So let's randomize that. Here you have to be very careful so you don't pull the bitrate too far down, because then you will just get some strange crackle, and the same with the bits. So I am just going to make sure that they are at least and then we do random on off, so there's a random chance whether the redux is on. And then we chuck a reverb in. We need more expression control here, I think, to change some of these parameters. The size is interesting to modulate. The diffuse and reflect. Let's do the decay as well. We just don't want the decay to go that far to 100%, because then you will get extremely long notes, and we might not want that quite. Should we do the pre-delay as well? We set the density to... Okay, go wild. Do whatever you want. You can modulate more if you like. Let's do one last effect and then we can get started. Let's do the auto filter, and we set that to the variable filter shape. There's one expression control left there, so we need to have more, but we set that should never be quite 100%, because then we just get a low pass that filters everything out. Bit less there. And then we need more expression control, because we need to set the filter frequency, and we never want to close the filter entirely. I should probably double click some of these just to minimize them, to create a little bit more room for what we're doing. Then I don't have to scroll back and forth so much. Resonance, we never want that to go too high. We never want that to... And we want to do the built-in LFO. I feel like the morph is doing too much. It's that one of the ones that are closed. No, not that one. Here. Or is that the wrong morph? Which one? Go to controlling device just to know which one it is. It is that one. I never want the morph to go into full on anyway. I think that will be fine. We set the random on off so we can turn that filter on and off as we like. Maybe I set that before the delay. Okay, so we got our Garble machine together. Now it comes to the MIDI bit. So to create these loops, we need to put on some MIDI notes. And here is where you can choose a path to go. To make it very reusable, you can set out a bunch of MIDI notes. I'm just going to do 16th notes here on the key of in the key of C, because if you know that all your samples are in the key of C and the C as your root note, that's what I should say. If that is your root note, it will be easy when you put your track together to know that if you want to transpose, that you can work out. So if you want to do it to a scale, that you can easily work that out. The other path you can take, which we are going to do for this example, is to use things like arpeggios and chords, which will introduce other notes, which may or may not be in the scale you want to, in the track that you want to do several weeks down the line. But it might be perfect for the track that you're working on right now. So we've drawn out some MIDI notes. I am going to make them just a little bit shorter so they are not butting up directly to each other, because if you do, these trigger and random on off will stop working because it will not realize that you have released the note and pressed again. So it's just allowing those to re-trigger. So when we run this now, sure, we get loads of notes, but each note is very, very short. So to change that, well, actually, we're going to set, it's not very fast, but we'll set it at 60. And we might actually change to, you can do a mix. You can do some 8th notes. Remember to make them just a little bit shorter. And we could do 1/4 note maybe as a little mix. Let's actually do this one with the C key. Let's record a bunch of notes into here. We set that to resample and we hit record. Let's go here. Let me see. We just do a few bars so we get some material here. So here we got our, the root note is all C. So let's solo that. And then we want to slice that up to a new MIDI track. And you want to set that to a bar. Remember, the maximum of bars this can record is 128. Now we have only done much shorter than that, but so you can obviously set this bracket there at 128, so you only get so many. Here's the reason why I set this to half speed, because you can squeeze a lot more notes into a bar if you're doing this. Well, sure, you can squeeze as many notes as you like at any speed, but then the samples will be very short, so these will help getting some longer samples. So we do that, and we want to slice it up to a MIDI track. Let's see if I can do, I've set up my TFP sample slicer as a preset that you can slice off into, but I'm sure we can use one of these other ones. I'm just going to try that. Does this one work? Yes, here we got all the samples, and then you right click. You can probably pick any sampler really. This is the bit that you want to go into. You want to go into the zone, so you see the list of the samples that it sliced it up to. You select them all and you hit crop sample. That is going to turn them into individual samples here. Then you can right click that and then show in Finder. I'm not going to show that because then it's going to drop out to my desktop. We're going to look at that later, but that's how you do it. And then you can make a folder with your sounds in. So we've made our first folder here. I'm going to mute them, and we are going to run another one. But now we're going to introduce some MIDI tricks. So if you are working on a track, let's say that that is in a minor pentatonic scale. So we set that before all this Garble stuff. And we set that to D sharp, basically all the black keys on the keyboard. And we are going to introduce some other MIDI effects. We want, what do we want? We want random. All of these MIDI effects need to sit before this scale, because that will force, if we're generating random notes, it will generate the notes and force them into a note within this scale. So we set 37% chance that it will hit a random note or deliver a random note rather than the note of C that we have put in there. Then we also want chords, and we want, do we want an arpeggiator? No, let's, okay, let's put it in. Let's put it in. And we can do random. And now we're going to need some more of these effects. So we can take the expression control. So when a MIDI note comes in, we create a random chord. I'm going to turn the arpeggio off for the moment. Maybe we don't want them to create notes that are sort of 5 octaves up or something. We just put everything around, sort of around just above and below 50%. I'm just making something up here. And then we are going to need our random on off. So at random notice, we set that before these. At random notice, we turn the chords off. So sometimes so you get a mixture of chords and single notes. And we do the same with the arpeggiator. And now we're going to set up another audio track, and then we resample that. And again, I will probably speed up during the recording so you don't have to sit through it all. We set that to resample, and now we're going to get a bunch of notes and chords in the scale of minor pentatonic in D sharp. great, we got our sample here. And again, we're going to slice that up, just using one of the samplers. I don't think it matters which one for the purpose that we are doing it. And then we're going to zone, and we are marking them all, and we are cropping those samples. I'm just going to drop out briefly out of Ableton just to put them in a folder so we can then look at them again. So I'll be back in a click. Okay, I'm back. I have renamed these two sample sets with the root key C and the one in minor pentatonic D sharp. May name them accordingly. I also want to say, I'm just going to plug my Patreon. If you feel like you can support this channel, that would be absolutely fantastic. You will get the samples that I've just created. You will get this project file. You will also get the other one that we looked at earlier with all those examples in. So if you want to pick them apart, you can. You will also get those Max for Live devices that I've made, so you can access those if you would find them useful. You can do a lot of similar stuff without them, but just in case. All right, so we have our samples here. We can now actually now I'm going to keep them in here for your reference. I'm just going to mute them. Let's remove those two channels, and we make a new MIDI channel. So now we're going to some of these that are in a scale with variation of notes, and as we made them a bit rhythmical, some are 16th, some are quarter notes, some are 8th notes. Some of these loops might be just fine to use in their own right. And now we can also increase the tempo again, so we get something that's going to resemble IDM. And we can take, let's now take the, it's going to show you some of those techniques. Let's do the simpler again, just as a refresher, because it's a bit of a favorite for this. So we had, so normalize that, and then click on the slice, and it will slice it up. You will need to adjust whatever MIDI keyboard you're using, so you can play the lowest C key, which is C. Well, you need to be able to play C1 to be able to play the first slice. And now we can make a MIDI track. Let's make that 4 bars, and then we just loop that. Let's click the little headphones here, so every time we click, we can actually hear what we're putting in. Let's make that. We pitch that down, and we can do that if we want to. Slightly shorter. Maybe we can set this, let's do a 2-bar loop, because one bar is a little bit annoying. We change the two. And then we can introduce some introducing some random notes, and then we can play around with the filter. So if we click on the envelope, or you want the envelope to affect the filter, we obviously already transposed it down. We can also have a pitch envelope if we want to. Maybe not. Spread it out in the stereo spectrum. Then we can maybe add some effects to this, so we can do the beat repeat. So sometimes it sends off something to the reverb, but we don't want that to happen so much. So we're going to use the curve, so it's much more likely that it's not sending it to the reverb. So we got our first Garble melody, and as this is using the scale, we should be able to then just be able to add a more traditional melody to this if we want to. So just make some sort of pad-like sound. And then let's just, so I don't hit any wrong keys, that we put in the scale plugin. We do the minor pentatonic in D sharp. Poor playing, but you get the idea that all of a sudden we can just create things more in this key. And then we can add a second layer, so we can even probably use exactly the same sample. Let's see what that sounds like, just for fun. That's probably a bit too far. We can stretch it to be... The other one we'd pitched down an octave already, and then we pitch this one, we stretch it out 4 times, so it makes it really, really long. Let's just listen to that for a bit. Yes, it makes it really scratchy, and we can make it scratchier if we, rather than having a ping pong loop, we have a forward loop. Quite like that. And let's make this into a bit more of a pad type thing. So we take, let's have some, some of those sounds are quite harsh, so I'm going to have a bandpass filter. I set it to 12 rather than 24 slope, so we get a bit more frequencies in. Maybe we want to have the reverb after that. See how that sounds with the other stuff. Maybe this melody is a bit too quick. If we actually spread it out. Playing some notes with that in my the sort of mock pad that I made here. Let's group that and say that that's one example, and then we can just make something completely different. If we want to go really experimental, we can take a sampler rather than a simpler. The sampler doesn't allow you to slice the track or the sample in the same way as let's take here the C note is going to be more easy to use, I think. As you can hear now, it's playing the same note, but if we go in here, let's draw a little melody in. Let's make this four bars. And let's do this on the black notes again. Just making something up here, maybe some longer notes as well. Silly melody. But I'll show you where we'll be going with this. Then we go into the MIDI section, and we do velocity, and we want the velocity to change the sample offset. We also want to go into this bit here and set that the velocity should not change the volume. That's set to 0 already, so that's good. And now we just go in and change the velocity of these, because that's going to mean that the sample starts at different points. Or so I thought it would, because we need to turn that off to 100%. It gets quite interesting melodies. That's quite high pitched now, so let's drop it down an octave. Maybe it was nicer like that. We can probably even do some chords in here. See how that sounds. No, that's the one we want. Now the sample offset is going to be repeating all the time, but you can also then go in and you can randomize the velocity range. So you get a very unique thing, and let's just add some delay to that. We call that example 1. Okay, we've made 2 quite mellow examples, so we need to make something a bit harsher now, I think. So let's add in... Yes, let's do another simpler. And let's find... Grab that one. Let's pitch it down. Oh, we need to slice it, and then we pitch it down. Obviously now, if you, by default, it's set that to transients, but you can set that to beat and slice this up as much as you like. So let's do 16th notes instead. And the other thing we want to do is now to use the pitch transition. Maybe we shouldn't have done 16th notes. Maybe we'll do... No, let's pitch that down. Let's do something really annoying here. Let's do that, but we go down. Let's do this instead. We warp it and then we make much longer. And we need to roughen this up a bit. Let's add a OTT. Let's group that, and we need something to make more of a kick. So we need another MIDI track. Pop that in. We do instrument operator. No, not simpler. Actually, let's do that as a sampler instead. We take that, set the pitch envelope, and then we Just needed a bit of context. I wanted more beats. And then we can mess them up a little bit in here as well. If we use them as samples, we just chop some bits out and then we pitch some things around. So we take that bit and we forward loop that bit. Turn that into a sample by, what did I do? I consolidated it, or I hit Command J on my keyboard. Let's pitch that down. No, let's just do it quickly. Just to beef that up a bit, just very quickly, let's cut. We set that to mid side and we set that to side, and then we cut all the low frequencies. Oh no, that's the one we want to set to. What were the other ones that we did? Let's listen to them again. Okay, loads of stuff. Obviously, you get these samples, you get this project file, you get the other project file. Because I have set up, I just want to show you, see if I search for Garble. I've set up a bunch of things here that will make it easy for you to make a Garble machine. It's set up already in the other project file. The complete Garble is a mixture of all those things. But just to show you, I'll just drop one in here. We got the drift. So you've done one for the drift, the operator, and the wavetable. Then I have set up a Garble MIDI bundle that is using the chords and the arpeggios and MIDI note length. And I've set up a chain of effects. So you can combine these in any way you like, or you can just open the Garble maker and it's all in there. So let's just... Loads of modulation. These are all using some of my Max for Live devices that you will get with this, but otherwise it's only Ableton native stuff. I've done loads of Garble loops now using all sorts of hardware and other things. So I encourage you to check this out. Thank you for watching, and I'll hope to see you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.